Hi, everyone. Welcome to Empowered with Gina podcast. Okay, so I love promoting and bringing to light and sharing businesses that I actually use. I am a wonderful consumer. And today I'm going to introduce you to Courtney Claghorn, who is here today. Welcome, Courtney.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Courtney, you are the founder and president and et cetera, of Sugared and Bronzed.
Yes.
Which is what?
We offer sugaring, which is an all-natural form of hair removal. It's the opposite way of waxing, so less abrasive, less painful.
Yes.
And airbrush tanning, which is sunless tanning, so you can get a tan without, damaging UV rays from the sun or a tanning bed.
Oh my God. Okay. We're going to get into all that. I'm really excited because I love talking about this stuff. But first, I always ask my guests 3 adjectives to describe yourself. I know.
Okay, I'd say I'm very loyal. I'm obsessive, which can be good or bad. And I'm fun. I like to think I'm fun. Yeah.
Okay, good. Where did you grow up? Who was the young Courtney?
I grew up in downtown Chicago.
Okay.
When my mom got remarried, I moved to South Orange County when I was about 9. But born and raised in Southern California is very much a thing. So I like to always, I don't claim that. I'm not.
You're not.
I'm also a city girl. So yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. And then, so how was your childhood? Just a quick summary. What was that like?
I mean, mostly fantastic. My parents were divorced when I was very young. So to me, it's just a way of life. I didn't really think much of it. It probably added to my life in some chaotic ways that I have unpacked as an adult. But it was fun. I loved living in Chicago. My dad lived in Colorado, so I'd always have time to go out and ski and see him. And moving to Orange County was, when you move when you're 9, it's pretty seamless. You make new friends easily. And it was a pretty happy childhood, although I would say my household was always chaotic. It was a, sort of blended family. My mom got remarried. I had half siblings. My dad was getting married multiple times. So,
Busy.
It was happy, but yeah. And I think I thrive in that sort of chaos, today.
Sure. How was education? How was that journey for you?
I would say I was the type of like straight A, AP student, mostly straight A's. I wasn't like crazy.
Yeah.
I got to be here or there. But my teachers hated me.
Why?
So, I was always talking in class. I was always late. It was the Courtney corner. They were always trying to separate us. My gay best friend who actually works with us, he's our VP of real estate. We would always sit next to each other in any class we had together in high school, and they'd be like, "You two are just too much." Yeah. So that was high school, and then college. I went to University of Colorado at Boulder. Mostly did a year at USC as well. And I was there to party. I'm going to be really honest.
Good.
I did major in business, but everyone's like, "Oh, you have a business degree and you majored in business." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know." I was there for a good time because I knew at that point I just didn't want to go to grad school. I was just not a track person. Not that
you knew early on. You don't fall in line.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's good or bad. I just knew I was like, okay, I'm done with this school stuff. Like, I'm over it. I did it. I felt like I was fairly good at it, and I'm onto something else. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but, I'm glad I went to school despite, maybe not attending all of my classes. It was just one of the best experiences of my life. And I met my now husband and co-founder. So it was well worth the experience.
Okay. So then you get out of college, and do you immediately launch the business, or talk about launching a business? Because there's a lot of people who are listening and want to launch a business or starting a business, and you know how weird that time can be.
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
Graduating college was really scary. It was 2009. It wasn't great economic timing. So I was fortunate enough, to find a job. I had a job at a fintech company. I didn't love it, but again, fortunate to have a salary. But, when you graduate college, me especially, I felt really broke. Like, my parents were like, "Oh, here's your whatever insurance. Here's this. Here's your cell phone bill. Here's all these things we've been paying for you your entire life, but now we're done with you.
Oh, no.
You're 22. You graduated. Like, here."
Bye.
And I was like, "Oh, okay." So that was scary. And I, still would want to get spray tans because I was in a wedding, had to go to a wedding, whatever. And I was like, "Oh my God, they're so expensive in LA." Like in Boulder, I spent I don't know, $20. And it was like, why are they $100 in LA? This is crazy. So it all sort of started there, me just complaining to my then boyfriend, now husband, and just being miserable at my fintech job.
Really? Okay. And so you just said something just kind of in passing that, I had to get a spray tan because I had a wedding or something coming up. Growing up, I never even thought to ever get a spray tan because I actually just got a spray tan like last week. So know it's still there. But I am very much this color. I've always been this color. So I never grew up thinking, I didn't even know what a spray tan was. I'm like, people spray their skin? Like, it really was just such a foreign concept to me. But obviously, you know, you learn. And at the time, it was cool to sit out in the sun with baby oil. And it's, you know, go to the beach.
You also have more free time as when you're young. And then it's like a pastime, you know? And like the sun does make you feel good. I don't like totally shun the sun. I'm just not out there like putting oil on and like, you know.
But in our 30s, we start looking at our skin and I'm like, what is that? What is that dot? What is that line? Okay, well, now we know. Yeah. So thank God you have a business that does this, because you better believe when there is a wedding, an event, a vacation, a beach vacation, you guys, here you go. Life hack number 1. I don't care what color your skin is. It is called foundation that we all put on our makeup. Foundation. What about the foundation for our skin? It smooths it out. It makes you look snatched. You look toned.
Yeah.
It is one of my best kept secrets. There you go.
Yeah.
Beach vacations. I will not go on a beach vacation without getting my spray tan.
You know, it's so funny is that spring break, senior year of college, I was dating I'll just say I'm his name, so I don't keep referring to him as my then boyfriend, now husband, whatever. So we were going on spring break and we'd been dating, I don't know, 6 months, it's maybe 9, whatever at this point. And I was going to get a spray tan before spring break because, you know, it was winter in Colorado. Like I'm like the only Italian family member that doesn't tan easily too. So like I knew that like a week being there, I might start to get some color, but I wanted day 1 to look good in my bathing suit. And he was like, you're crazy. He's someone who tans extremely easily, like overnight, whatever. And he was like, this is crazy. No one does this except for you. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm not crazy, but like whatever. I'm still going to go spend the $20 and get this spray tan. And then sure enough, we literally now run this business. I mean, half of it's sugaring, of course, but of people getting sprayed before what? They leave on vacation. And I'm like,
it's a thing.
I always just use that as like, anytime you want to question me, Sam, just know I'm right. We can end the conversation there.
Done. Point proven. And it really is true. I know it's a psychological thing too, because I know coming out of a spray tan and putting that dress or that bikini or that outfit on, you look better. Oh, yeah. And that makes you feel better.
100%.
So it's such a wonderful thing. Okay. Yeah. So talk to me about, from a business point of view, we all know how difficult it is to start a business. Everything is set against you, right? You didn't inherit some big company. You didn't have the connections. You moved to Los Angeles. How in the hell did you get into the spray tan world?
It was such a funny story. But literally, I was complaining to Sam enough times where he was like, I'm just sick of hearing you complain. And he was like, you know, like, all right, let's do some research. And he was like, yeah, you're right. There is really not an affordable option in LA that's not like these places too that were charging a lot were like hole in the wall. Ew. They would be like gross. They'd have like—
They turn you orange.
Very, very straight older men spraying you and you like want to be naked. Like not like, it was just not what, you know, you wanted to spend $100 on especially. And he was like, well, you can't find any of these places, maybe there's like a need in the marketplace for it. And I was kind of like, okay, sure. But like, I don't have any money, you know, and I don't know how to spray tan someone. So like end of conversation. And he was like, why? Like you could probably learn. It's not like rocket science. And I was like, yeah, but I'm just not the girl who like in the sorority house was like, oh, come to my room for hair and makeup. Like I was going to someone else. I was outsourcing that. I'm like, I'm just not good at that stuff. And sure enough, like YouTube videos, lots of phone calls, whatever research we could do. You know, I think at this point, we were not going to make our own solution like we do now. So we found a supplier who was like, we'll come out and train you. Like all these different things. I had any girlfriend I could find in my apartment so I could practice on her. And I realized it really wasn't artistic, like maybe like doing hair or something like that. It was really just following very straightforward directions. And I was like, I'm good at that.
Yeah.
So I figured it out fairly quickly. And then it was like, okay, we need to put up a website. And at that time, thank God, my husband had always been sort of techie. And then I sort of learned from him. And we were like, all these websites, especially this was 2009, like late 2009. And like everyone had a website, but there were still a lot of junky ones out there. Like we probably don't remember now, but we were like, all these places that offered tanning, like the websites were horrific. We're like, what if we just have a really clean website? And if it's out of our apartment, like at least it gives us some street cred that like we're not totally chaotic. I don't know. So we each put in $500 and it took me like 3 days to really like put up the money. I was like, this is like the first $500 I had just saved, you know?
Wow.
And my boyfriend was like, it's $500. Like worst case scenario, you own your own spray stuff, like whatever. And I was like, yeah, but this is my first $500. So I put it in, he put 500 in too. And that was that. We had a nice website and people would start coming to our apartment. So I was fortunate enough to work in Santa Monica.
Okay.
By design. I was like, I'm not getting my apartment until I know where I'm working. So at that point, I could kind of come home at lunch or after work and sort of keep my job, but also take some clients and see if this was going to take off, because I wasn't in a position to sign a commercial lease. I don't know if anyone would have leased to us. Our financials were pathetic and we didn't have any clients. We were so young. Yeah. So at this, a few months in, it was like, wow, this business is growing. I either need to quit my job or end this business, because I'm at this point turning down clients to be at work. So at that point, I left my job and we started.
How scary.
Yes. But I think when you're 23, this was probably like early 2000. So late 2010, we started the business. This was early 2011. Yeah. Ignorance is bliss. Like I was just turning, I was 23, turning 24. And you're sort of like, well, I didn't have kids. I didn't have any responsibilities really except for my rent. And I was like, I think really naive in the fact that when you see a business grow over the course of 3 months, it's just going to keep growing, which in my case it did. And I was fortunate, but yeah, that was kind of naive and ignorant.
Well, again, it was just the perfect timing too. The age,
age and optimism and just a lot of things working out. And so we started to look for our first commercial lease. We were like, we have to get this out of the apartment.
After how long?
So probably by January of 2011, we started to look for that. So November 2010 through January 2011. So a very short period of time. We started to look for that commercial lease, and I really wanted to be on Montana Ave in Santa Monica because I was like, that's just where it's at.
Yes.
But leases, even at that time, with the economy being the way it was, were still expensive. So we found a spot upstairs behind a tree that we could afford. No. And we're like, if people found us in the apartment through Google Ads or through Yelp or word of mouth, like why won't they find us next to this nail salon upstairs behind a tree? Stop. So that was like the OG location.
Is it still there?
So we outgrew that spot, but it took a while for us to relocate that store because we kept getting to the point where we're like, do we open another store in another location or reload the OG? And we kept opening in other places. And then finally we're like, okay, this store is so tired. I think we had built it out for like $8,000 with money that we had saved from clients that had come in. So there was no, investment outside of that initial $500 from each of us.
Stop it.
And then it was all self-funded for 9 years. We bootstrapped. And then we raised money for the first time in 2019.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then talk to me about scaling. So you see this thing's going, it's moving. How do you as a business owner, yes, you had a business degree, but I mean, on paper.
It's a degree in partying.
Yeah, no. How do you understand how to scale, what that means? How do you find locations? Do you buy? Do you rent? How do you do that? How did you do that?
Well, buying was not an option because we still, we're very scrappy bootstrapping. So leasing was definitely the only option. And at that point, we kept our first few spots like pretty local. So we knew the area. When you live in LA, you're like, okay, you can kind of assess where you want to be in like a Beverly Hills or the South Bay. Like, the areas enough and you have enough friends that live nearby where you don't need to pay for like a Buxton sort of data source where it has all these demographics. Like, your clientele. I was in the store so much. You kind of know the neighborhoods. So the first like few locations were fairly easy to decide. It was like, just could we afford the rent and is the parking easy?
Yeah.
What does the build out look like? Because still our construction was very scrappy at the time. It was like as minimal construction as we could do, Now things are different, But, later on when we started to go into New York City and whatnot, we started to try to pull more analytics or more data, but we didn't have access to the things that we have access to now. So a lot of it was intuition. Does this feel right? Which sounds so silly, but it also like really worked. Our first New York store was in Union Square. And I just remember starting the real estate tour that day and walking into the space that's still our Union Square store. And I was like, I think this spot could work. And like, that's all.
It just felt right.
It just felt right, which a lot of people and especially investors don't like to hear. They're like, no, we want numbers.
Can't quantify that.
And I love data. I love numbers. I love supporting intuition with that and also, putting that up against intuition. But at the time we just that was all we had was intuition, and some basic, friends and calling friends and asking and anecdotal research. So that's sort of the first, early real estate decisions.
So how many states are you in and how many stores do you have?
So we have 31 stores right now. 32 will be opening soon. How many states? California, New York, Pennsylvania, Texas, and Florida. 5.
Okay.
And then DC is next, but I guess that's not a state.
We need to add Louisiana to your roster.
Okay.
My husband's from Louisiana.
Okay.
We have a home there. We go all the time. And I have a beautiful collection of friends there.
I would love
They need
that.
you. They need you.
Okay.
Because these women are about business. They're wonderful. I mean, everywhere needs you, but consider Louisiana.
Okay.
Next. Your next stop.
I love that idea. I don't hear that one a lot.
Yes, it's good. It's happening there.
We want to open all over the U.S. and honestly, I have some international ideas too.
Stop. Oh my gosh. Talk to me about competition in the business workspace. How does that work for you?
I mean, I love competition. I mean, as a consumer, I love it. I think as a business owner, it only makes us better. There's not a big national chain that does sugaring and airbrush tanning. There are some national chains that sort of do hair removal or sugaring, but they're franchise owned, the only ones I know of. Oh, okay. And then the big, large brands that do, I don't even know if I would call them brands, they're more chains that do tanning, really have like machine tanning, bed tanning, and then they might also offer spray tanning. So it's kind of still a new frontier in a way, which is so fascinating to me. A lot of our competition is more mom and pop. They own 1, 2, maybe 3.
Right.
Yeah, and it's sort of local competition.
Great. But you're still able to come in with a competitive rate because that's how you started.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Fabulous. Okay, explain to me the technique of sugaring for people who don't know, because everyone's heard of waxing or laser hair removal. What is sugaring and why is it more beneficial?
Yeah, so if you think about like shaving your leg, because I think that's just something that everyone can picture really easily, you're moving that razor against the natural direction of hair growth. So that's sort of what happens in waxing as well. So if you were to wax your legs, that wax would move in the same direction. Now with sugaring, you're actually taking off the hair in the direction of the hair growth. Oh. So the sugar gets molded on, which is sort of just like this caramel sort of paste-like substance. And then it gets put on in the opposite direction of the growth, but then it gets flicked off in the natural direction of the growth. So that's why it's a lot less abrasive. And it's also just made of sugar, lemon, and water. So a lot of wax and things have resins, dyes, all these other things. And especially with moving it in the opposite direction with a wax, like you're just creating a lot more friction, the skin's getting a lot more aggravated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then breaking the skin and then years and years of doing that, well, your skin's not so tight anymore, is it?
Yeah. It can just cause like a whole bunch of issues. And like, look, some people wax and that works for them and whatnot. But a lot of people, if they come over to sugaring, are like, why would I go back to waxing? Like there's just so many advantages.
It's so natural.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then talk to me about how you now make your own tanning solution. How?
I mean, we obviously use a manufacturer and they have, engineers and chemists and all these things. Like that's not my background and not my expertise, but obviously I work closely with them. I understand the basics of how things work now after many years of doing this. And then honestly, even if we want to make an, small change, iteration on something, like I've always used the internet, right? Like, of course, we grew up with that. We've always had it. But now ChatGPT is this whole other level where I can just be like, oh, I really want this to happen. Like, I want it to be a little less sticky but I don't want to compromise this. Or like the scent just is feeling too much these days with 100 tans happening a day. Not that we really scent it, but we try to negate or offset the natural scent of DHA. And I can just ask it these questions with our ingredient list and percentages and recipe. And it's really fascinating. Really? And I can bring it back to the chemist then and say, hey, here's what I was thinking. No, I'm kidding. I tell them this. And I'm like, okay, if it's totally off base, just let me know. But a lot of times they're like, oh, that's a really great point. And I'm like, oh, thanks. My friend ChatGPT told me about it.
I know ChatGPT is such an amazing tool.
Yeah.
I love using it. And it just really expands our opportunities.
Yeah, especially with we have a whole product line that we make. So it really, it helps me get in there with the people who are the professionals and like really understand what they're talking about and ask the right questions and come up with like actual, good ideas for them versus just like dumb comments.
So what's on the horizon? Talk to me.
So San Diego is our next new market, which we're really excited about because we are in LA and Orange County, but we haven't gone that far south yet.
Okay.
So that'll be happening in the fall or early winter. With construction, you never quite know. We're really excited about that. That'll be our 32nd store. And then our next, we call them flag plant new markets. Like that's not near any of our current markets, is going to be Washington, D.C.
Unbelievable.
So we have a couple stores there that we've signed a lease on and one we're about to sign a lease on.
I'm so proud of you. And I know we just met, but just knowing what it is that you do as a business owner. And then it's one thing to launch it, but it's another thing to maintain it and go with the market. How did COVID affect you?
Oh my God, it was so crazy. Well, so fortunately, like I said, we bootstrapped for 9 years and then we raised that first round of funding really just to grow internationally, to grow quickly and to have like a buffer on the balance sheet for things like cash flow.
Yeah.
And that happened in late 2019. So it was like we entered 2020, started to build up our corporate team because at this time we only had 10 stores. We had like maybe 6 people on the corporate team. It was small. And we needed more infrastructure to really like grow nationwide. So we started to like make a couple hires, and then we all know what happened, March, April 2020, which was wild. Thank God we had partners at that point, main post partners out of San Francisco. And they've been really fantastic because we've been through thick and thin together.
Wow.
It's a scary thing to enter a partnership where suddenly you're not allowed to operate. Like we always had projections, projecting, cash flow for a recession, for a depression, for all these things. Never zero. That was never in our projections because we were only really in New York, Philadelphia, and Southern California. So our construction sites were closed in New York. All of our stores were closed. I think California, we were closed for like collectively like 12 months or just shy of that. We did outdoor cabanas so people could get Brazilians outside. We did mobile. We built like Uber functionality into our app for mobile spray tans. So if you had like a backyard or outdoor area or whatever, we opened a pop-up in Texas because we were about to sign a Dallas lease when the week COVID hit.
Oh my gosh.
And then we were like so scared to sign another big, 10-year plus 10 plus 10 lease when we were bleeding so much cash. So we were like, how about a pop-up? And it took off. We launched e-commerce 9 months ahead of schedule with packaging that we were not proud of, but we were like, we have to do whatever we can do. And, I think at the end of the day, we were on this call and Joey, the CEO, Joey Gonzalez, Barry's Bootcamp CEO and board member, was on the call, and he was going through the same thing. Internationally, his studios were closed, right?
Oh my gosh.
And I think our investors were just like scared out of their minds, and Joey was kind of calm, and they were kind of like, how are you just like so calm with all this? And he's like, I think as entrepreneurs, we're sort of comfortable in the chaos and the uncomfortable.
Oh.
So this is like new, but it's also not anything new. And he's like, I always have days where I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. And that mindset, especially from a team member, a board member, someone who had been through it and then some, with a much bigger business. And it felt a lot scarier, I think, for him at the time too, being international and having so many studios and such a big corporate team. Not like, bigger than ours is what I'm saying. But that was like really comforting. And I was like, you're right. This isn't any different than any other day at our job.
I think that's so important because one thing I talk about is the perspective shift, the mindset. Mm-hmm. It's either the sky is falling, I'm a victim, life happens to me, not for me.
Right.
Or the facts are the same. You choose the way Joey told you to. Nothing we can't handle. We've done this before.
Yeah.
We have.
Yeah.
The sky's not falling. We pivot. Cabanas, pop-ups.
Life's give you lemons, make limoncello,
I love limoncellos.
My family's Italian, so I like to put that twist on them.
Yay.
Like, lemonade's great, but who doesn't love a cocktail,
Oh, me. Okay, so before we end, can you talk to us about what are some top products? I'm going to put all your information, so everyone do please check out her stores and go get a spray tan, go get a sugaring. It'll change your life. And I use it, so why not? What are some products, your top selling products right now?
Yeah, so B2B, we do have our sugar paste because there are a lot of smaller studios across the country that really, we make our paste in this very particular way, and we're really proud of it. It's very different. It's much more consistent, no pun intended, because it's about the consistency of the paste than any other paste on the market. So B2B, we have that, which is actually a top seller. We don't do any advertising dollars or anything behind that. People just sort of found it, which is really fun. And then we have something called jojoba oil, which everyone loves, sugaring and tanning. It's something I like to put on. Makes your tan pop and just glow, and it's moisturizing. So I love jojoba oil. It's like a creation of mine. Oh. And then on the sunless tanning side, we have all the products that you can build a tan from scratch at home, whether you like to do it with a mousse or a lotion or with glow drops or with a tanning water. We have all of that you can, like I said, self-tan, or you can use it to extend your spray tan. So it doesn't matter if you have a Sugared and Bronzed near you or not. But those are all, those products I think are just things that I always have in my home. I mean, I have our whole line. Who am I kidding? But those are things that are great. Like if you just don't have time to get a tan, something comes up last minute.
Oh, I hate that.
You're going on a really long vacation. You want that tan to last. Like, so those are things I use in different capacities on different body parts in different forms every day.
Done. Okay. Now we know. Now you know. So you can take it home with you. Okay, well, Courtney, I'm just so impressed by you, and really, I applaud you and you inspire me because as a business owner, it's just so motivating to see that you're in your space, you're growing, you're doing it. And you're facing these downturns with, this is an opportunity. And then the successes that naturally will come from the failures, but I appreciate your time because I know you're busy. And I will continue to stay glowed and hairless thanks to you.
You look fantastic.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.